So welcome, and I am sitting here up in the hills above Lake Tahoe in California, where I've been on a vacation for almost a week, going back hiking in the hills here in the mountains at fairly high elevation. And this is our last morning here, and driving back to home in Redwood City, and we'll be broadcasting from IMC tomorrow again. So welcome. So this is different than how it usually is, and so it kind of speaks to the theme I'm still focusing on, which is change and inconstancy and permanence. And so, surprisingly, there's a new place, new situation, and the central focus that Buddhism has on anicca, the Pali word that's usually translated as impermanence, that more literally means inconstancy, and is in the family of words like change. Buddha has these three expressions that he uses together: inconstancy, change, becoming different, and change has three important characteristics. And as we become wiser about impermanence, change, things becoming different, inconstancy, it's useful to keep in mind these three aspects. One is that change means that something that was will no longer be. Another thing it means is things that were not happening are now happening. So change can be welcome and unwelcome. Something that is unfortunate can come to an end, and we celebrate perhaps, or it's a relief. Things that are fortunate and wonderful come to an end, and we're sad. The ending of one thing means the beginning of something else. And the beginning can be unfortunate. The beginning of something that's fortunate and wonderful can happen. And sometimes there's what's in between, that things don't change fast enough, or they change too slow, but they stay constant for a while. They are that way for a while. And so all these ways, impermanence is not just a depressing word. It also makes possible all the important changes that happen in a life that are useful and important and wonderful. And not having change sometimes is the unfortunate thing, that we need change in order to grow. A child grows with change. We grow with change. And so it makes a world of difference in Buddhist practice, whether we situate ourselves in the middle of the change, in the middle of the changing world. And even though our thoughts and ideas can emphasize that things aren't changing, or some aspects don't change, there's always change here in the present moment. And it's possible, in being attuned to change, to find a degree of freedom where we don't hold on to anything, we don't resist anything, a freedom where we surf or float with the changes, but not randomly. It's not chaos. There's a gentle way, an appropriate way, that we steer the boat the raft that goes down the river. The river carries it downriver, but we keep it in the current. We can influence the change that happens. We create the conditions for it to be different. So we meditate. And in meditation, we learn to situate ourselves in the change and to understand where the rudder is that keeps us going in a good direction, keeps us flowing, keeps us in the current rather than leaving the river to be in the land of thoughts and ideas, memories and futures. To stay in the river and not get caught in the eddies or the sandbanks. Here, now. And one of those places to find the current is in the breathing. To breathe. To breathe. We be with changing, flowing sensations of breathing. So to assume a meditation posture and to gently close your eyes. And with your physical body as an antenna, as a sense apparatus, sense and feel the body's experience of breathing. And as you breathe, feel the sensations that change in your torso, movements of your rib cage, the movements of the belly, the movements of the diaphragm, and then in a gentle way that's just right for you, taking some fuller inhales, just a little fuller, and a more extended exhale, so that you begin entering into the full physical experience of breathing, as if your whole body is participating, breathing in and breathing out. And then the extended exhale to relax in your body. To soften. and letting your breathing return to normal. Not so much following the breath or watching the breath, but allowing your awareness, your sensing, your sensations to participate in the changing, shifting rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. As you exhale, relaxing the thinking mind, softening the thinking mind, quieting your thinking. And if you like, in the quiet thinking, think the kind of thoughts that keeps you participating in the changing, shifting rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. Very quiet, soft thoughts about breathing that supports a quieting, a stilling, entering into the ever-changing sensations of breathing, one breath at a time. Your contribution is to notice how thinking takes you out of the flow of breathing. The flow of attention, participating with breathing. Place yourself in the rhythm of breathing. So that the mind doesn't get fixated on any idea, thought, judgment, feeling. Everything's allowed to move and pass through. With awareness, attention, staying in the river of change. As if mindfulness, awareness, as a rudder that you gently move in the river of change to stay in the flow of breathing in and out. So awareness itself doesn't get fixated anywhere. It flows along like a boat flowing on the surface of a river. There is an art for to have awareness, mindfulness. Participate with breathing. gently flowing along with the breathing. Awareness massaged by the breathing, so awareness stays soft and gentle, relaxed. And so the awareness of breathing allows the breathing to settle and quiet. There can be a very satisfying and healthy way of breathing that comes with this careful, caring attention to breathing. What keeps us alive allows us to live with caring attention for what keeps us alive. As we come to the end of this meditation, just as caring for our breathing can allow breathing to care for us, so we care for the wider world, so it cares for us. And is sitting here in the forests of Northern California, in the midst of this natural world for which our human lives depend, without which there would be no human life. And may it be that we use our awareness, our attention, our compassion and kindness to care for what cares for us. As we end this meditation, may it be that our ability to have a heightened attention to the present supports us to care for the natural world that we live in and the natural world that we are within us. May all of life be supported to move through its natural cycles freely and caringly. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And I don't have a bell today to ring, so I end this meditation now with bowing to all of you. Thank you. So hello everyone, and welcome to this continuing series on insight. And today's the end of my vacation up in on the hills of Lake Tahoe. and glad to have you along. So, in this series on insight, I've been doing a while now, many talks on the first insight, usually in English called impermanence, more literally meaning inconstancy. And this emphasis on insight can sometimes lead people to believe that mindfulness or insight meditation is meant to be a form of thinking about things. But in fact, the deeper insight that is being developed in insight meditation certainly has a cognitive side to it, but it involves a deep samadhi, a deep settledness and peacefulness and quiet and focus of the mind. We have and so I'd like to talk a little bit more about this insight into impermanence before we move into the second insight, which is the insight into dukkha. So the deeper insight into change, into impermanence, arises when the insight practice becomes co-joined with samadhi. So the first part of the year, the emphasis, the series was on samadhi, and I hope those of you who came along with it, that you had some feeling for the possibility of a deep, quiet, focused, silent mind. That's a state of being collected, unified in a quiet, peaceful way. And this kind of that sense of samadhi, the state of unification, of settledness, of peace, usually gets unified around something, like around the breathing, around loving kindness, around something that allows everything to settle. And one of the things that we can get unified around is unified around the experience of change, especially if that experience of change initially is a very simple one, and that is the function of breathing. And to enter into the current of changing, flowing, moving sensations, with time, the minute sensations that come into play with one inhale, one exhale, is a ripple of sensations that are coming and going. And of course, we don't have to look for the ripple, we don't have to look for the subtle sensations. But as we are staying more mindful of the changing nature of breathing, staying in the present moment with that, this allows the mind to get unified around breathing. For deep jhanic work, the samadhi gets organized or around something that's more stable. The changing nature of what's happening is less important than the stilling of the mind. For insight practice, the stilling of the mind together with the changing nature of the object of attention, in this case the breathing, come together in harmony. They come together and work together. And so insight the deep insight of insight meditation begins to come into the forefront when the mind gets very still, quiet, absorbed, unified around the experience of breathing. At least that's the way I was taught when I was in Burma. At some point, as we get absorbed into this world of change, as we get unified around it, it no longer is limited to the experience of breathing. It could open up into the whole field of changing sensations in our experience. And sometimes that opens up to something that's called choiceless awareness, where we're not choosing something like the breathing as the focal point for seeing change, but rather we're just allowing change to show itself to us in whatever way that it shows itself. There might be a sound, then a sensation in the body, and then a feeling, then a thought arises. And all this stuff happens in a way, but not that we're chasing it, not that we're following it, but rather that we're in the midst of it, settling, quieting, becoming unified. Just this. What is possible is to, sometimes with the choiceless awareness of opening up too quickly to include everything, sometimes it's too easy to limit the quieting and settling, unifying of the mind. It's sometimes too easy to mistake kind of cognitive awareness of everything from the deep, thinking mode of being. And so the idea, sometimes people find it very helpful just to stay with the breathing. And all the insight that we need to have for insight meditation can be found or can arise from being with a changing, shifting sensation of breathing. So as a mindfulness teacher, insight teacher, my preference is to encourage people to stay with the breathing as long as that's compelling, as long as that's an easy place to be and just to flow. So it's because it works as a great place to develop this unification of samadhi, so that samadhi and insight are working together hand in hand. Some people like to, so that's my emphasis. And then, however, if anything becomes more compelling than the breathing, like say there's a strong sensation in your body elsewhere, or a strong feeling, or a strong emotion, or a strong a sound outside, then, with as a relaxed mind as possible, fold that into the mindfulness, the awareness. Let that become the focal point or the organizing center for this unification. So it isn't so much to go out and really understand the sound, if it's a loud sound. It is to take it in, that also as a changing, flowing part of the present moment. And then there's a knee pain, and you do the same thing with the knee pain. You don't start thinking about the knee pain, but rather that becomes the place where to stay with the changing, flowing sensations. So the samadhi is arising in relationship to change, the relationship to things constantly shifting and moving and becoming different than it is. And in the process of doing that, a meditator might go through similar stages of samadhi as we do in pure samadhi practice. There might be comparable to going through the approach concentration, approach samadhi, and the approaching jhanic-like states. There's kind of jhanic, deep absorptive states that go through the quantum leaps of deep joy, deep happiness, deep peace, contentment, to deep equanimity, as it works in samadhi practice. It can also happen in insight practice, because it's the change, the flow of inconstancy, of impermanence, comings and goings of things, that becomes the resting place for samadhi, the home base, the grounding place for our experience of being attentive. And so in this way, it isn't that we're looking for change, trying to understand it and cognitively evaluate it or cognitively believe in it or focus on it, but rather awareness is flowing in it, or unified in it, almost is like awareness is becoming the change, the changing, shifting flow of the present moment. So in this regard, I like to sometimes think of now as a river, the river of now. We're always in that river of now, but it's a river because whatever it's in the now is always shifting and changing. And the more we can rest in the river of now, the more we'll see it as a river. We'll see it as a constant shifting, moving of sensations, thoughts, experiences, arising and passing, coming and going, flowing along, sometimes only through very minute little shifts and changes in the texture, the quality, the intensity of what's going on. But to stay with it in such a soft, settled, restful awareness that the whole psychophysical system that we have can get settled, peaceful, quiet, settled into this flow of change until at some point with deeper insight, all there is change. And at some point even, it doesn't really matter in deep insight practice what's changing. It just simply that it feels so nice for the mind to be just kind of absorbed in a samadhi state of how much just the change, the flow, the current of the river becomes the delight. Not necessarily the kind of water we're in or the details of the experience. It's just that things are flowing, becomes deeply satisfying, partly because it's deeply freeing. It's deeply freeing to not have the mind latch onto anything, not have the mind caught by anything, reacting to anything, wanting something, judging something, but rather having the mind at ease, resting, flowing along in this current of the present moment. So thank you very much, and very happy to be able to be here, and very grateful to my friend who allowed my family to come up here for our for our vacation. And I'll be back at IMC tomorrow morning, and I look forward to continue then. Thank you.